Hello and welcome back to the Slide to 90% Speedrunning tutorial. In this third part, Gandy and I will cover the game's second episode, a Starry-Eyed Encounter. If you haven't already, go back and watch the previous parts since they contain information that is also relevant to this episode, and we will assume you already know. Let's get started. In the episode menu, after resetting the game for the episode 1 outro or watching it, mash circle in Korean, X otherwise to enter the episode. Just like episode 1, we start with an unskippable cutscene. Afterward, mash circle or X to immediately select Sly and split. Our first job is Recon the Ballroom, which requires us to get inside the palace. But
with the drawbridge up, the only way across that river is on those conical rocks.
In front of both sets of rocks, there is this cutscene in which Bentley reminds Sly how to spire jump. It's two separate triggers for one cutscene, and they're linked together as if they're one. With some precise jumps, we can skip this cutscene. We will cover the right side route first, which performs Spire Point cutscene skip by avoiding the trigger using ledge grabs along the edge of this cliff to make it to the Spire Points. This is the strat generally used by experienced runners. From the safe house, run to the corner of this indent in the ground. Glitch high jump from the edge around part of the cutscene trigger, and then grab along the ledge that runs toward the waterfall. The trigger extends out into the air, so we need to direct our first two jumps into the open, and then only use our third jump to cut back toward the ledge. Then from the ledge grab, do a double jump to the right to grab the ledge again. Be careful to not end up landing on the ground, or you'll be in the cutscene. Also be sure to note the curvature in the edge, so this isn't directly right of where we were before. We then need to do another double jump, but delay our second jump so that we approach the ledge grab from a low enough angle. Although jump timing doesn't matter much for the first ledge shuffle, you will hit the trigger if you don't hesitate or delay your double jump with the second shuffle. The spot we're aiming for is the point in the grass texture where the dark green becomes light green, or just to the left of that. Then we're going to double jump to the spire point to slice right, but the trigger extends over the water, so we need to latch from a safe angle that will avoid the trigger. Direct your first jump back right, and then transition into straight right with your double jump. With your first jump, it's better to go too far back than it is to go too far to the right. Mash circle after the double jump. If you'd like, you can use the D-pad to direct Sly for this double jump, which is what I and a few other runners do for this trick. I hold both down and right on the D-pad for my first jump, and then switch to only holding right for my second. I like to position the camera so that the right side of the screen is on or near this spot in the rock, but I don't always, as a relatively wide range of camera angles will work. If you're hitting the trigger while using the D-pad and are confident you're doing the directional inputs properly, try delaying your double jump just a touch more or using the camera setup. These jumps are inherently awkward and tricky, but through practice you gain a much better feel for the trick as a whole. If, after grabbing the ledge the first time, a snake spawns in the pit in front of you, just jump off into the void and deal with him. He will attack you on the ledge, and although it is possible to get away by quickly doing the rest of the skip, it's not a good idea to rush. Approach the leaves and then inch forward until the snake appears again. Then inch forward just one more step and swing. You should be able to hit him and just barely avoid the trigger, which in this area begins at the line in this image. Then back up and attempt the skip again. When attempting to determine the spawn rate of the snake for this tutorial, I found that the snake will never spawn in a full game setting, but awareness of the snake remains relevant for practice and episode runs. If you trigger the cutscene in midair, there's a high chance you'll end up underneath the map. This is a soft lock, so you have to load, but manually save your file first so that the cutscene remains triggered. After the reload, use the left side route, which we'll go over in a bit. It's possible to save an additional 1.3 seconds on the cutscene skip by doing one fewer ledge grab and only one ledge shuffle. This requires glitch high jumping much closer to the trigger and extending it much further. The time save is pretty minimal when accounting for the increase in difficulty and risk, but it's up to you. Once free of the cutscene, glitch high jump across the spires to the far one, then single jump off. Run along the wall sneak for a few steps, then glitch high jump to the spear. It's possible to reach the spear sooner with a glitch high jump from this spire. Jump to the spire, then glitch high jump directly toward the very tip of the spear and spam circle. When Sly settles on these rocks, he gets really inconsistent jumps, so you have to avoid that by glitch high jumping immediately. But you also can't do it too immediately, because if you hit square on the frame that Sly lands on a spire point or rope, he will do a downward cane swipe and fall through whatever he was supposed to attach to. This is sometimes called a frame jump. This poses a risk with any glitch high jump that's done after landing on a spire or rope, but it's particularly a nuisance here when you're trying to jump especially quickly. This jump really isn't worth it, especially in full game runs, but it is technically optimal with the right side setup. Once to the spear, glitch high jump onto the wall in between the points. It's easy to ledge grab the one on the right, so ensure you jump directly in between the two. Glitch high jump and attach, and then double jump onto the roof. Hit the point on the far side and square boost off. Square boost onto the spinning wheel, and then square boost off holding up right. The wheel will try to bring us with it, so you have to fight against the current. Continue the job trigger with a square boost to cut the corner. Late in editing of this tutorial, a new route was found, which can be seen here. Without the glitch high jump directly from the spire point to the spear, this route saves about 0.8 to 0.9 seconds. With the direct glitch high jump on the other route, this route loses 0.2 seconds, but at that small of a margin, that jump should just be obsoleted. So do this route. Spire Point cutscene skip with the right side setup saves about 15 seconds. It's pretty hard and has some risk, so feel free to leave this out of your runs for now if it's uncomfortable. If you aren't skipping the cutscene, go to the left side and square boost into it. Afterward, double jump to the left spire and single jump off. Do the single jump slightly upright to avoid catching on the tree root. There's no risk of a frame jump with a normal jump, but Sly's jumps from these rocks will still be inconsistent if he settles. At the far side, you can skip to the second spire with an extended glitch high jump, but this is somewhat precise. Alternatively, just use double jumps, and then continue to the wall with double jumps. Square boost past the stairs, and follow this route to the job trigger with a square boost to cut the corner on the far side of the bridge. If a guard spawns on the bridge facing toward you, head across the rope to the left to avoid him. This route is only slightly slower and is faster than getting hit by a guard the other way, but do the normal route if he's facing away from you. The Spire Point cutscene can also be skipped on the left side by single jumping high up on the tree root and then quad jumping over the cutscene. But this is significantly harder and saves less than 5 seconds over the right side cutscene skip. We discussed quad jumping in part 1 as part of the Cairo segment. Since this quad jump is extremely precise and it's highly recommended to opt for the other method, we won't cover quad jumping here and will instead go over it in episode 3 where it's more relevant. The route after left side cutscene skip is the same as if you watch the cutscene. Once to the job trigger, just run into it. Although this job begins with a Banakicom cutscene, it does not have a Banakicom animation, so you don't need to square boost.
After the job trigger cutscene, run right of the fire pit and square boost over the route. If there's a guard directly in your way, just hit them. Then we can double jump onto the archway, and then double jump up to the balcony. On the archway, there's a section of it at about a 45-degree angle, and the close part of that is what we use. After landing on it, snap back with the left stick to jump backwards, and then go forwards with your double jump. A glitch high jump would only make these jumps harder. Spam circle to interact with the doorway after your double jump to the balcony. You can interact with it even from the railing. We then enter the picture taking part of this job, and we can't make any noise, so don't run or break anything. Upon gaining control, R1 tap forward a few steps and open the Banakicom. Make sure not to go beyond the gray line on the floor. For the first set of pictures, we need Rajan, both of the wings, and the winch on the ceiling. Rajan can spawn on either side of the balcony, on which he does a little loop and then leaves. If this first set of pictures is not yet completed, he will respawn. It's very important to be quick with these so that we finish them all before Rajan returns, but this is very easy if you pay attention. It doesn't matter what order you take the pictures in, but since we need to take the Rajan picture before he leaves the balcony, we recommend taking his picture first or second. If you do Rajan second, you can take a picture of the wing and use the time while zooming in to peek at one of the balconies. If you see a guard, then Rajan's on the other one. If you take Rajan first, use the Banakicom animation to check which side he's on. Unlike in breaking and entering, these pictures are more spaced from each other. It takes longer to pan the more zoomed in you are, so wait just a bit to start zooming while moving. The game world freezes when you're viewing a picture. After these 4 pictures, the Banakicom will close, so be careful to not be holding any directions. Here, we need Jean Bisson, Arpeggio, Contessa, Carmelita, and Neela. Jean Bisson, Arpeggio, and Contessa can spawn immediately. Carmelita can only spawn once the Contessa picture has been taken, and Neela can only spawn after Carmelita's picture. Characters will spawn at either side of the balcony, or a guard will spawn instead. Each guard loses time, and it's random whether it's a guard or a photo target, making this the biggest source of potential RNG time loss in the run. Be careful with your zooming. If you miss a picture, it will slow down the people on the balcony and will lose at least 3/4 of a second automatically. Once we've taken every picture, that completes the job. Reset the game to skip a Bentley slideshow. After the reset, mash to select Sly. Head to the right so we can get our second treasure. If we did Spire Point cutscene skip, the cutscene is still here, so we have to be careful to avoid it. Both sides of the cutscene will be permanently active until they're triggered, but this is hopefully the last time you'll be near either one of them. Run off the cliff just to the left of the stone, then switch to holding up left while falling. Press circle to attach to the rope. If you need, you can double jump in mid-air toward the rope, but always remain conscious of the cutscene trigger if yours is still active. Square boost off, then twice more to the treasure, Burial Urn. For this treasure, we are under time pressure, but it has nothing to do with the treasure's actual timer. Instead, we have to be fast in order to make the elephant cycle in front of the safe house afterward. The elephant circles the area in front of the safe house. At most times in a cycle, we can't land on him, but with the time it takes to get this treasure, he ends up in the perfect position where we can. So, we can use him to get into the palace if we complete the treasure reasonably quickly. In addition to this pressure from the cycle, we're also over the edge of the map. Remember that if we take damage, we lose the treasure and we'd have to go back for it. But this route can be done both safely and quickly as long as you're careful and put some practice into it. With the treasure, head back toward the rope and square boost. Make sure to spam circle to attach, or alternatively single jump. On the far side, square boost to land on top of the post and run off. It's very hard to square boost too early here, so just don't square boost too late or you'll bonk off the post. These posts are really dangerous, so for the remainder of the section with the gaps, you have to swing out to the left and line up the square boost to avoid them. If you're having trouble, we recommend single jumping over the gaps. Once on solid ground, square boost left of the tree, then again, and then twice more to enter the safe house. This safe house is the only one in the game which we automatically enter by hitting a trigger instead of interacting with it. It's possible to square boost left of the torch and take a more optimal line to the safe house, but this is more awkward. With optimal and clean movement up until this point, our speed is completely capped by the elephant cycle anyways. It's also possible to trigger the safe house without jumping using this left corner, but this is weird and is usually slower. Upon entering the safe house, mash circle or X to select Sly again. During this exit animation, don't touch the right stick at all, or else you'll get a weird camera angle when you gain control. This can only occur when re-entering the safe house from the hub and then exiting again.
Then we'll head to lower the drawbridge. If the treasure route was done properly, the elephant will be moving from right to left in front of the safe house, and we can double jump onto his back and then glitch high jump to his spire. It's possible to just stand atop the red thing, but just use the spire. Once the elephant's back legs cross into the road, it's no longer possible to stand on him directly, so we need to get to the top before that. When the elephant is leaning toward the palace, do an extended glitch high jump and spam circle to attach to the closest spear. The elephant does 3 leans where it's possible to make the jump before he passes underneath the archway, which forces Sly off the spire. Making the cycle for the first lean requires good movement to and from the treasure with minimal mistakes. Jumping on the second lean seems to be the easiest, but alternatively you can glitch high jump from the spire to the top of the archway and then get to the spear. This cycle is pretty important and isn't especially hard, but in the event of a mistake, there is another brief window of opportunity for getting on top of the elephant as his back legs step off the road and into the grass. Once to the spear, square boost off and then single jump onto this ledge. This places us high enough where we can glitch high jump and swing to hit the job trigger. Prior to hitting the job trigger, be careful of guards so that they don't knock you off toward the ground. They will despawn once you hit the trigger. We'll have this camera angle after the cutscene, and since we hit the trigger from underneath, we'll also be on the ground. In this job, we need to pickpocket 5 guards that are all over the map. We'll start with the one in front of the safe house. Since he's outside the wall, and we need to be inside to do the rest of the job, we'll do a super jump to warp us back up here after we take his key. A flashlight guard will almost always spawn in this area, and he will often see you when you warp back. So we will also use a GSM strat to try to spawn him near the bottom of these stairs, so he won't have time to walk all the way up before we're gone. From the Bentley cutscene, run backward toward the spear and turn your camera a little bit further to the right. Do an extended glitch high jump from the edge of the wall to attach to the far end of this spear, which is lined up with the right side of the tower. Super jump off the spear by pressing X very shortly before Sly lands on the spear. Since you can't use a cane swing to buffer your super jump on a rope like we did on the ground in Follow Dimitri, you just have to rely on a timed jump within a few frames before Sly lands, and then double jump. You can also mash the X button before Sly lands, but timing the input will provide the best consistency. Fall to the ground and do a super jump with a cane swing, then double jump to land normally behind the guard. When super jumping from the spear to the ground, turn your camera directly back toward the palace. Hopefully you'll see the light of a flashlight guard appear to the left and very low, which indicates he's on the ground. We spawn him on purpose now so that the game won't spawn him in a more dangerous spot on its own. It's very important that you don't land normally until you're in the immediate area behind the key guard. The point where I'm standing, beside this notch in the archway, is as far away from the guard as you can land. So if you need, do another super jump before landing if you aren't going to make it. The guards in this job have a consistent number of coin clumps, but they aren't all the same. This guard always has 5. After the key, double jump and super jump to land in the water. Turn your camera a bit to the right to set up for the next part. If you pickpocket it at max range of the guard, it's possible to glitch high jump and slide off into the water with square, but if you are closer to the guard, you'll hit him, which would ruin the super jump chain. Also ensure you don't ever make noise behind the guard. If the super jumps in GSM were done properly, we land back on the palace wall where we originally jumped to the spear, and there won't be a guard looking right at us. This super jump abuses a mechanic where Sly won't be returned to a grounded position in the immediate vicinity of a guard, so the game uses the previous position. Missing the spear super jump just places you on it, so glitch high jump back to the wall if needed. This super jump only saves 2 to 3 seconds, but it isn't hard at all once you get a hang of it. If you did Spire Point cutscene skip, the super jump is required, since the alternative route heads right through the cutscene trigger. If you happen to mess up the super jump and you're stuck down here, use the elephant to get back up on the same cycles we previously discussed. Worst case scenario, let the guard kill you with melee attacks, just don't run into the cutscene. After the super jump, run back and slightly left to fall off the edge, just past the bouncy pad. Keep your camera backward until at least midway up the stairs. Square boost to cut the corners and get to the top, heading for the rope. If spotted after this super jump, you want to lose the guards before getting onto the rope, because the second guard will turn around and look at what's going on. If you have smoke bomb, this is really easy, but if you don't, stare at the ground, run toward this doorway, and then cut back to the left and continue with the route. This backup is completely ridiculous, but it works almost all of the time. If it doesn't, wait on the wall for the guards to lose you before crossing the rope. You also might have to kill a small guard if he's messing with you. If you did not do Spire Point cutscene skip, you have the option of using this movement for the first 2 guards. Hold square to instantly detach from the spear with a charge attack. Double jump forward and R1 tap or square boost to approach the guard. Later in this job, we need to do a death abuse, so run into him after pickpocketing so that he will melee attack you once. Touching a guard instantly alerts them. Then continue with the same route to the wall as Recon the Ballroom. And head to the rope. When attaching to the rope toward the second guard, you can square boost and attach, but this is weird because of the rope's angle, so you need to do it relatively early to consistently grab onto it. We'd instead recommend the alternative, which is just a single jump and then attach immediately after that. The quicker you press circle after X, the better. If you press circle and X on the same frame, you can do what's called a circle boost, which is performed just like a square boost but with circle. With a circle boost, Sly immediately enters his thief move animation and is never in a normal jumping state. Oftentimes with a rail walk, this can also allow us to attach to a more distant point on it. Circle boosting onto rail walks is done rather minimally in Sly 2 because square boosting is just too powerful, but falling here is pretty bad and square boosting hardly saves anything. On the far side of the rope, single jump to behind the guard, favoring his left side. Don't hit square as the snake statue is breakable and would alert the guard. If needed, R1 tap to get closer. After pickpocketing him, run and hit him twice to his right to knock him off the ledge. This can be done in just 1 hit, but 2 is recommended to be safe. Continue with square boost along this path. Then double jump to the railing. If you miss the square boost over the gap but are not in a downward cane swipe animation, you can back it up with a double jump. This is a general backup for any missed square boost over a gap or onto a structure, but if you hit square after X and have a downward cane swipe, another jump isn't possible. This next guard needs to be lured with noise, so hit this chair and move around his light. Switch to R1 tapping when you get close. Then hold back right to briefly run and square boost off the ledge to head toward the 4th guard. At this point, the guard can't hear you, so don't be afraid to run. On the ground, we need to become aware of our camera again, as we want to avoid guard spawns on the other side of the bridge. At this point in the job, we should be at 75% health. As we mentioned, we'll do a death abuse later, but runners with smoke bomb and runners without it should take damage differently. And of course, plans might have to be adjusted if you make a mistake and end up with less health than intended. If you have smoke bomb, take damage in the ravine to get to half health. If you don't have smoke bomb, don't take this damage right now. This next guard is on a cycle where he walks back and forth across the bridge and loops at either end, so he will be in different places depending on pace. Square boost to approach him if it's comfortable. Pickpocket him safely and don't get spotted. If the guard is on a bad cycle and walking toward you across the bridge, you can either glitch high jump to the spire and easily jump over him when there's an opportunity, or very carefully glitch high jump around his light from the railing. If you have smoke bomb, you could just use it in front of him and then jump to behind him. Meanwhile, keep your camera pointed back or perpendicular to the bridge for the sake of GSM. This guard always has 3 clumps of coins. If you're looting him on the main part of the map before he's fully back on the bridge, the guard can do a little hitch where he instantaneously snaps to look a bit toward his left, which can spot you or place you in the area beside him where he'll detect you automatically. So in this situation, avoid being too near him or to his left. After the key, if you have Smoke Bomb, run into him and allow him to melee you once in the direction of the guest house, then run a few steps and Smoke Bomb. You should now be at a quarter health and will die from one more melee attack. Keep the camera pointed back and continue straight off the bridge. If you don't have Smoke Bomb, don't alert him and instead kill him with a stealth attack. Be careful to avoid a health drop which might come from the guard, and single jump off the side of the bridge once to get to half health. You should have more health without Smoke Bomb for the sake of safety. To be more optimal without Smoke Bomb, you can kill the guard with fancier juggling strats, or try to hit him off the bridge when he's midair, but these probably aren't worth it if you're doing the late Smoke Bomb route. Regardless of gadget route, head to the right between the buildings with the camera remaining backward. After passing this corner, you can look ahead for the next guard on the balcony. He is also on a cycle, but with his random stops and starts throughout the job, he will randomly be in slightly different positions, much like the guards in theater pickpocketing. This also applies to the bridge guard, but with this one it's more impactful. We'll glitch high jump to this awning to bounce up to his balcony, but he can spot us in midair, so we have to be careful. If you see him facing you, it's recommended to just wait until it's safe to land behind him. If you're on a slower cycle and you can't see him at all, you have to be extremely careful because there's a chance you'll jump up there and immediately encounter his light. In certain circumstances with mistakes, it's better to go to the opposite side of this balcony and use the awning on the other side, but this requires familiarity with the cycles and/or a feeling for how much time you've lost. It takes this guard about 20 seconds on average to complete a full cycle. During the first 10, we'd like to jump up on the left side in this view, but if he's in the latter 10, we'd rather use the right side in this view. So if you're 10 to 20 seconds behind optimal play, run to the opposite side after the bridge. Because of the guard's random stops and starts, this measurement will vary, but rarely by more than 1 second. With optimal play but bad luck, you'd normally have to wait for him, but it's possible to jump to the roof to the right and then drop behind. This can be scary due to the camera angle, which creates the risk of spawning a guard close to Sly and being unable to even see it, which is especially scary with 1 HP. So you'd have to turn your camera left after the first turn after the bridge to try to get safe rooftop guard spawns first. If spotted by the 5th guard or another guard, either use Smoke Bomb or camp on top of one of these chat trees. We had to research Indian architecture to figure out what this was called. If there's nearby small guards keeping you alerted continuously, you might have to kill them. After pickpocketing the final guard, we want to die to him from melee attacks. He always has 5 clumps of coins before the key. Once you've pulled all 5, run for a moment so he hears you and then pickpocket the key. This way he turns around sooner. If you don't have space to run, just pull the key and run into the guard afterward. It's optimal to begin running after the 4th clump of coins, so the guard turns around earlier, but this saves very little and is extremely risky. On this balcony, there is a chance that Sai will just suddenly exit his crouching stealth state, and he'll therefore be unable to pickpocket. This seems to occur in certain areas, presumably due to a bugged spot, but they have not been precisely identified other than this one. There are at least 3 located directly along the natural path of looting the guard. This makes running after the 4th clump of coins extremely risky, since you will likely die if this occurs when you try to pull the key. Otherwise, just be aware of this and move Sly a little bit if it happens. With the death abuse, avoid falling into the void, as that will trigger a double death animation which loses time. Frames can also be saved by cutting Sly's death animation using the wall, but it's pretty much up to the guard's position whether this is possible. During the fade out, the keys will say 4 out of 5, so don't worry, you'll respawn with 5. The death abuse spawns us back where the job trigger was, which is right beside the drawbridge controls. From the load, hold up left, run for a moment, and square boost to the controls. Spam circle to interact. Remember that Sly 2 does not buffer any inputs out of loads, so you have to begin holding R1 after the game begins to fade back in. Be careful with this square boost, as it's quite easy to miss the platform if you don't have the right angle. This completes the job. After the job complete screen, hold back and slightly left.
Run backwards briefly and square boost over the statue. On the left, there's a basket which we can spin through for coins while running. After the bridge, glitch high jump onto the awning and then double jump to attach to the spire. Then, glitch high jump across to the upper floor. Make sure to extend this glitch high jump. Optimally, instead of attaching to the spire, you would land beside it and then do a glitch high jump to the railing directly from the dome. This jump needs to be well timed and properly angled to avoid ledge grabbing, and this dome is not the most convenient thing to run on due to its small size and how easy it is to slip off. Skipping the spire point only saves a quarter of a second, and it loses time if you ledge grab, so using the spire is perfectly fine. Once on the railing, we can square boost immediately to the next railing and then again to the job trigger, but don't do a downward cane swipe after your square boost to the trigger. These square boosts require precise angles and also save very little, so feel free to just run from the railing and then up the stairs into the trigger. After this cutscene, we need to go to another job trigger to steal a tuxedo. Our camera will be facing toward the palace, so run right and then down the steps. Hit the objects in your way and square boost off. Once to the bridge, cut the corner with a square boost, but avoid bonking off the pole. Alternatively, you can just run onto the bridge normally. Turn the camera fully around to GSM. The trigger is directly straight backwards from the center of the bridge, so it's easy to run right into it. After the load, we'll be in the guest house. Here there are 5 rooms we need to hit, each with one part of a tuxedo located within a certain object. We start with the far right room and then work our way left. From the cutscene, hold upright and head up the hallway. Square boost over the snake barrel, killing the snake, then hug this right pillar and hit the barrel to run past the guard that's right here. With the doors in this job, you should just spam circle, but with this first one, you have to wait a little bit because there's this pipe on the right side of the hallway that Sly will try to attach to. Inside the room, square boost through the glass, then onto the bed, and then again off of it. Spam square to hit the leftmost hamper. With the square boost through the glass, be careful to not bonk on either pillar. Throughout this job, there are a number of square boosts like this where we need to fit through spaces and avoid bonking by properly angling them. This will definitely take practice to get used to. The guard in this room will usually spot you, but if this is done optimally, he won't have time to attack before you hit the hamper. After the animation, run left and a little back very briefly and then square boost. The guard should shoot you mid-air, making you land on the raised area, then just run out of the room. In rare instances, the guard will be facing away when you enter the room, so you can enter and exit cleanly. This is apparently random. In this case, you'd run and square boost at a more direct angle, since there's no need to account for the guard shot. As you exit, the hallway guard should turn to face away before you reach him. You can get past him again by just hugging this same pillar. It's recommended to square boost as you approach him so that you're never spotted, but don't hit him. Hitting him will just guarantee that you're alerted within the second room and afterward, and send the guard after you once he wakes up. The second room is similar to the first, but head directly across the bed and then into this side room with square boosts, and break the dresser. It's possible to break the dresser with a downwards cane swipe after the square boost, but this requires really clean movement, so expect to need a cane swing on the ground. Then do all the same movement in reverse. The square boosts in this room are tricky, and like in the last one, you want to avoid bonking. Single jump or double jump in the event of a mistake, or if a particular square boost is uncomfortable. Unless you've been super clean, the hallway guard will likely spot you as you leave the second room. Just ignore him and run to the left to the third room. Beating the guard's attack range is pretty tight, so him hitting you is unoptimal but very normal. In the third room, the layout is completely different from the other 4. After coming around this corner, glitch high jump onto the TV, then again up to the chandelier, and a third time to the left onto the bed area, then hit the wardrobe. Optimally, this last jump can be a double jump that lands on the railing and immediately square boosts towards the wardrobe, but this isn't recommended. When entering this room, there's a chance that you will remain alerted, which can be a problem with the guards that are inside. With Smoke Bomb, I just recommend using it near the speaker if you're still detected. Without it, you'd have to just continue and hope for the best. You can glitch high jump to the opposite chandelier, which is behind you and jumping on the TV, if you're having issues getting knocked off the TV or attempting to get up to the normal chandelier. After the animation, run across the bedroom, hit the guard, and square boost off. Don't swing your cane again as you fall, since we don't want to keep this forward momentum. Then exit the room and turn right. If there's a guard in the hallway inside the room, just hit him. Head right to the 4th room. This room is just like the first one, except the tuxedo part is just past the bed, so we can hit it with just 2 square boosts and a downward cane swipe. Then run back around the bed to leave the room. On the way to the last room is the other hallway guard. For passing him, hug this left pillar to try to minimize how far the guard's shot pushes you back. Ideally, you just rub against the far side of the pillar and stay in roughly the same spot. Then run to the last door and spam circle. Depending on where the guard is positioned and your own pace, he might hit you with a second shot. We tank a fair amount of damage in this job, but you very rarely should be at risk of death. If you are at low health here with this guard, you can go for a more conservative strategy using Smoke Bomb if you have it, or this bouncy pad if you don't. The last room is just like the first one. Sometimes the flashlight guard will hit you, and sometimes he won't. Hit this object to get the final Tuxedo part to complete the job. After the job completes, load the game. From the load, Halligan select right to select Murray, and we'll head to Battle the Chopper, the shortest job in the Sly series. Punch boost off this ledge by hitting square right before it. Then cross the drawbridge on the right side. If we're further left, we'd have to jump, so stick to this angle. Enter the tunnel up the stairs. Turn left and then single jump onto the awning that is to the left of the exit and then land on the roof. You can sometimes get a guard in the tunnel. If this happens, just double hit him to kill him. You can usually prevent this by tilting your camera slightly down and to the right after entering the palace. On the roof with the job trigger, we can perform a cutscene skip. After hitting this trigger, there's a brief period of time before the cutscene starts, and in front of us, there's the interactable lever for after the cutscene. If we double jump forward to land on the far side of the job trigger, we can run and interact with the lever before the cutscene starts. This triggers the lifting animation, which prevents the cutscene from playing. You want to land on the edge of the trigger closest to the lever so you can make it there in time. You can't mash circle to interact since that will just make Murray stomp, so you need to time the circle press when you're close enough. If you don't land in the job trigger at all, you can always try again, but make sure you're facing the lever when you jump towards the trigger. If you try to run in a different direction from where you're facing, your character has to first turn around, which would make you too slow to reach the lever. Mash a face button to lift the lever. The cap on mashing for Murray's lifting is low, so there's no need to do it super fast. While lifting, turn your camera and look at the chopper for more information on where it will be once the lifting phase is over. Note where it is and what direction it's moving. The chopper always begins in the area near the guest house, but its movement and positioning is random. Once the camera transitions away from Murray, you're granted full control of the turret. Quickly pan to the chopper. Although most of the chopper's movement is random, it will consistently complete a larger move toward the palace, but when it does this will vary. The turret will overheat if you hold R1 for too long, as indicated by the bar at the bottom. There are 7 stages of heat, plus an 8th overheated stage when the turret is locked from firing until it cools down. The bar is full at level 7, so the 8th level is invisible. After each quarter second where R1 is held, the heat progresses to the next level. With R1 released, the turret cools down by 3 levels each quarter second. By mashing R1 very quickly, it's possible to shoot while the turret cools down. This means that you can hold, then mash, and then repeat. To perform this mashing strat most optimally, you would hold R1 until level 7 and fill the meter, but not any longer than that so it doesn't overheat. Release R1 and wait until it drops to 4, then you can mash while it drops from 4 to 1 and then 1 to 0. Then repeat. When mashing, you can't fire as quickly as holding, which is why you alternate between the two. Only use mashing for the periods when you'd like to cool down the turret. The mashing strat can be made a bit simpler by just holding R1 until the bar is just above midway full, and then mashing while it drops to empty. This is generally what runners do when performing the mashing strat. If you find that the turret isn't cooling down when you're mashing, you likely aren't mashing fast enough. It's perfectly fine to just hold and release instead, and not mash, but it is a bit slower. With some experience, you can pretty easily get a sense of the rhythm for holding and releasing. These turret mechanics will apply identically in 4 other locations throughout the rest of the game, but the mashing strat will only save time for 2 more of them. Regardless of which strat you use, the real key here is aiming. If your aim is good enough, you don't need to worry about the damage you're taking, since you'll destroy the chopper before it can destroy you. The chopper's random positioning and how it's tilted can affect the difficulty of aiming. The hitbox includes both the rotors and the main body. If the chopper goes far to the left, and there are missiles from the right, you can usually ignore them, but be careful if you've already taken damage. 5 missile hits will kill the turret and fail the job. If needed, shoot some of the missiles to mitigate damage. Prioritizing missiles that are close to the chopper in your field of view can prevent you from needing to pan as much, but the missiles will be a lot easier to hit as they get close to you since they'll be larger targets and will move less. You never want to find yourself stuck dealing with missiles because they aren't going to stop. So if you play too scared, you can trap yourself in a loop and never shoot the chopper. Destroying the chopper completes the job. Load the game afterward. Because the game autosaves during this short animation after the job complete screen, it won't lock us out from menuing to load, so we can do so immediately. From the load, Halligan select left to select Sly. Run to the center of the drawbridge and square boost onto it, so we don't have to worry about getting stuck. Then square boost over the perimeter of the pool surrounding this statue and spam square, or aim a bit more to the left on the drawbridge and run around the statue. Again, there's this breakable on the left which we can spin through for some coins while continuing to move. Once beyond the statue, this job has the same exact route as the beginning of Steal a Tuxedo, with the same options for movement. After the load and a long cutscene, we have to play the Neela Dance autoscroller. There's no way to make this go any faster, so just do it in the casual manner and repeat the given inputs back with proper timing. The game forgives you if you miss a couple inputs, but make sure to pay enough attention so that you don't fail. After this job, reset the game again, and there's another Bentley slideshow.
After the reset, Halligan select left to Bentley and we'll head to RC Bombing Run. Cross the drawbridge on the right side like we did as Murray, and then turn right. Hit the guard and the two barrels in our way. Cross the two bridges with the camera backward or diagonally backward. On the far end of the large bridge, you can turn it to normal. If that first guard doesn't spawn, turn your camera as soon as you can to prevent him from spawning on the large bridge. After the bridge, jump on the bouncy pad, hold neutral until above the roof, and then double jump forward to the next one. Off the second pad, don't hit X and just spam triangle into the trigger once high enough. Dropping a bomb after each jump would be optimal, but not doing so can make this movement easier. There's no need to worry about the bombs dropped into the cutscene, as characters are invulnerable to normal damage sources during Banaki-Kam cutscenes. In this job, even if you have a bomb that doesn't explode until after the cutscene, it might push Bentley, but it can't hurt him since we'll be controlling the RC Chopper. During this extra part of the cutscene, the Jeep crosses the two bridges and then turns to its right. Quickly after we gain control, the Jeep arrives at choice 1. It will randomly either turn to its right to cross the bridge, or it will continue forward. If it turns, it will complete a loop and return to make choice 1 again. If the Jeep continues forward, it will wrap around and lead to the statue just inside the drawbridge, where it reaches choice 2. Here, the Jeep can turn in either direction. If it turns north, it will turn west at the river and then west again at the wall. After completing a route in the northwest part of the map, it eventually returns to choice 2. If from choice 2, the Jeep crosses the drawbridge, it will loop and then turn east upon re-entering the palace and will return to choice 1. When the Jeep completes the random choices, it has animations which deliberately attempt to juke you and make it seem like it's turning in a different direction than it actually is. From the cutscene, hold up left and follow the Jeep to choice 1 and follow it to the north or west. If the Jeep goes west, head over the building to catch it. Drop bombs with X and streak along its path. The Chopper is much faster than the Jeep, so it's best to do a bit of a zigzag over the Jeep. When needed, you can also do a quick 360 to let the Jeep catch up. You can mash X for much of this, but releasing the bombs has a short cooldown, so avoid dropping a bomb that will definitely miss. At the mouth of the drawbridge, and also right before choice 1, the Jeep will be blocked from your bombs. This job is hard and takes practice to familiarize yourself with it and controlling the RC Chopper. And of course, there's a lot of randomness at play. Just ignore the missiles that the Jeep fires, you should never die. Destroying the Jeep completes the job. Afterward, if we are on the super early smoke bomb route, we need to collect our third treasure using what's called a treasure warp. As is well understood, you can't take damage with a treasure or else it will be destroyed. But after interacting with the treasure, an animation plays where the treasure attaches to a character's back, which lasts for a half second. If we get damaged during this time period, the treasure survives and lands on our back anyways. And this applies even if we die. So if we interact with the treasure, then die within the half second it takes to attach, we will respawn in the safe house, and this will count for having brought the treasure back. This is called a treasure warp. In any percent, we currently performed 3 of these. The first is with this treasure, Ming Vase. If on the late smoke bomb route, you do not need this treasure, so you would just load the game after the RC bombing run job complete. But for the treasure, hold up right to run off the tower while the camera zooms over to Bentley. Sometimes during the job, Bentley can get blasted from a bomb you dropped into the job trigger, but if you did the movement optimally, you should never be pushed in a bad direction. Turn the camera backward to GSM and run off the roof with a bomb drop. After both Bentley and the bomb have landed, hit it so it pushes us back left with this camera angle. Then continue down the stairs and turn your camera back to normal. You can optionally take this damage on the way to RC bombing run instead by jumping and then dropping a bomb just after the big bridge. This is a bit slower but is less awkward, so it's easier to reliably hit the bomb. Just past the line in the floor, face Bentley toward the treasure and toss a trigger bomb in front of it. The bomb needs to be somewhere where we can stand in the radius of both the bomb and the treasure, at an angle where the blast won't send us off the map. The positioning of Bentley and the bomb are not precise, but they are very important, so be careful. If we get pushed off with the treasure, we'll get a double death animation, which will kill the treasure. Once positioned, press your trigger bomb button and start mashing circle afterward. The detonation animation allows us to sneak a circle input in, even without great mashing, which makes this trick very easy. But if you mess it up, just run back from the safe house and try again. This is really slow, but it's the best option. Take damage from a bomb on the bridge and continue to GSM until you're nearly there. You shouldn't have to worry about noob mode. Although Ming Vase is not optimally collected with the late smoke bomb route, since it doesn't need the coins, it is worth mentioning that for people who are really struggling with the coin route, this treasure would alleviate all of the early game pressure. If, after learning the rest of the episodes, you're still really struggling, this is an option. We want to stress the importance of working on your coin farming, but it's impossible to ignore the value provided by this treasure, since it gives 249 coins in exchange for just about 11 seconds. After the treasure warp, we'll be back in the safe house and we want to go right to select Sly. Halligan selects don't seem to work consistently after a treasure warp, so just quickly press right on the D-pad and select after the load. If you didn't do the treasure warp, Halligan select right. For Elephant Rampage, enter the palace like before, but aim left of the statue. Hit the basket and round the corner. Optionally, you can spin to try to farm it. Square boost onto the water wheel and square boost off upright. Run down toward the job trigger, square boost toward it, and spam square. This first cutscene is very short. From it, hold up and slightly right, and then mash circle to crawl under the steps. After turning left, crawl directly forward. After the cutscene, do the same path but backwards, so you don't waste time turning around. Getting stuck a little bit on the way back is pretty normal, you'll get the hang of it. In this job, we need to break off 3 jewels from the headdresses of 2 elephants which roam the map. Obtaining all 6 jewels will complete the job. We will exclusively focus on the first elephant until we have 3, and then move on to the second one. After the cutscene, move on to the steps and wait a bit while the first elephant walks forward, then glitch high jump onto their back and repeatedly swing and spin to attempt to get the jewel. It takes 7 hits for the jewel to dislodge. This immediate attempt to get the jewel is a defining moment when it comes to optimal play, as failing to get the jewel before the elephant passes under the archway can immediately result in a 10-second time loss. This job is reliant on the cycles of the elephants and when we have opportunities to jump onto them, generally giving a small margin for error before notable time loss becomes inevitable. Being able to get the early jewel on the second elephant is only possible if you get the early jewel on the first, and this applies to later cycles as well, so the time loss ramps up quickly. We'll first go over the fastest cycle, and then the rest of them. To get the early jewel, you need to glitch high jump to the elephant very early and or have clean swings on the headdress. It's very easy for swings to miss, so always plan to need a spin attack even with what should be your 7th and final hit. The spin attack's wider reach can connect when the headdress is under the archway, and it also just connects more easily in any scenario. After each jewel, the elephant throws you off. With the early jewel, run to the first basket and do an extended glitch high jump to return to their back. Depending on exactly when the early jewel is obtained, this jump will vary in input timing and difficulty. Generally, jumping onto the elephants is pretty tricky and can be very frustrating. Once the game recognizes that you're over their back, it will match your speed to the elephants. After the very first jewel, the elephants defend themselves with swats of their trunk, which can be dodged with a jump but are misleadingly delayed from their warning cry. Optimally, the remaining 5 jewels can be obtained with a swing and spin, then 2 swings, a single jump, and 2 more swings, one of which can be mid-air. Hits on the headdress only work if Sly is contained within the boundaries of the elephant's back. If you are too close to the headdress, you can be pushed out of the range to attack it, or even off the elephant completely. After the second jewel, you can glitch high jump back to the elephant from the bridge's right railing. You can single jump onto the railing, which is far easier, but sometimes you will need a square boost in order to be quick enough. Completing the first elephant before or around the time that they pass the water wheel sets up the early cycle, as you can then go across to get onto the other elephant's back and get an early jewel on them. You can get onto the second elephant from the bouncy awning or with a glitch high jump from the pool next to it. Then you basically just repeat what we did for the last elephant, but the elephant is earlier in the cycle, so it's generally more relaxed. The early cycle is really tight and very difficult to meet and maintain. If you fail to get the early jewel in the first elephant, you can jump onto the archway and then return to the elephant from on top of it. After that, because this is cycle dependent, it comes down to utilizing objects or structures relevant to where the elephant is, or where it will be in a moment. In the first area, you have 2 baskets, but they are breakable. You can use the bouncy awning or the bouncy pad, but I haven't liked these options personally. The railing on the bridge is very useful, but account for the fact that it has a hump, which affects your own altitude and the elephant's. The small domes on the railing aren't solid, so just ignore them. After the bridge, double jumping onto the water wheel and again off is very comfortable, or you could glitch high jump from the box beside it. Further along, there are more options, including the bouncy pads, or just going up to the roof. Also, generally, all the baskets are good. In the area with the fountain, you can use the stairs leading to the wall, or utilize the spire atop the statue. Glitch high jump from the perimeter of the pool to make it up there. The parts spraying water are slightly more elevated, but anywhere on the outer ring can make it to the top. After the first elephant, ping the second with the L3 button, and make your way to an opportunity where you can jump on them. The elephant's position is completely dependent on your own pace so far, but the cycle is consistent. You can also use this rooftop. After that point, make use of any of the spots we showed to finish off the second elephant. If you get hit by an elephant at any point but remain on their back, you can abuse iframes to hit the headdress without the need to jump. For the final hit of a jewel, a strat exists where you jump and swing in a manner where you will fall off the elephant into nearby water while obtaining it. This warps or pulls you back to the elephant immediately, but this is very precise and barely saves any time at all. Attempting this and missing it would usually guarantee missing or losing the early cycle, so it generally is not used even by top runners. A super jump can also warp you back, but you don't gain control soon enough to be able to buffer it with a cane swing, so it would need to be performed by mashing X or timing an X input right before Sly lands on the ground. This only saves time in niche scenarios and should only be used as a backup to try to get back to a cycle that has been lost due to mistakes. But this requires either very good mashing or timing in order to be able to get this reliably. Missing a super jump would be far worse than just accepting the time loss you already had, so this is risky. If the elephant happens to throw you onto this railing, it doesn't set grounded position, so you can warp back for free. The same goes for a ledge grab anywhere, since ledge grabs never update grounded. This job is extremely difficult and is by far the hardest in this episode, so significant practice is very much encouraged. From the end of it, head directly to Boardroom Brawl.
After the job complete, run and then glitch high jump across this gap. With proper timing, this can be done ledgeless. You can use this little part of the roof that extends out to be a little further when you begin your jump. If extremely confident with square boosting, you can also double jump to the wall sneak and square boost the gap. This only saves a few frames. Square boost over these railings and over this gap, then round the corner. If you fall, use this backup route with a glitch high jump to skip some running. After the corner, glitch high jump to clear the gap over the water. This job trigger sits in front of a crawl space inside the drain pipe, which activates for crawling after this job has been completed. But if we jump on top of the pipe and press circle, we're allowed to enter it early and bypass the job trigger. First, do a normal jump in the direction of the trigger, then change to upright with your double jump. Aim for this spot and press circle upon landing. Alternatively, you can stand a few steps from the job trigger, look at the wall, and tap down on the D-pad so Slide turns its back to it. Then single jump to the spot and spam circle. There are other methods which will work for this, but these are the options we recommend. If you land on the pipe and are just standing there, you can jump back and try again, or retry from atop the pipe, trying to recreate the same angle mid-air as the standard setup. When landing on the pipe on a miss, be careful to not slip off and land in the job trigger. If you see this happening, you can try to jump away. Despite its apparent simplicity, this trick can feel really weird, so play around with it and see what gives you the best consistency. Inside the crawl space, crawl backwards to hit the loading zone for the boardroom. Normally when you enter this room as part of the job, a Benaki-Com cutscene will play in the pool, but if we entered without hitting the job trigger, it won't. This isn't entirely surprising, but the weird part is that the rest of the job works totally fine, which makes this job a bit of an anomaly. If you fell into the job trigger outside when attempting the jump, just turn around and crawl back out to try the skip again. Getting it second try is still faster than watching the cutscene. From the pool, square boost twice and then single jump to this railing. Then glitch high jump to the chandelier and again to the top portion. Run across and square boost off to land beside this table. On the top portion, this chair is in the way of an optimal line, but if we leave it alive, we can farm it for coins later. Once on the ground, table clip the last table in the center of the table at this side, which will count for crawling under it and reading the code we need. Optimally, the table clip will boost us this way, which can be done consistently by canceling the charge attack by releasing square before the charge animation is visible. However, the amount of speed given is inconsistent. The boost isn't a big deal, and it's better to ensure you clip the table than risk ending up underneath it, so holding square for a bit longer is recommended. Square boost back this way, and square boost again to interact with the keypad by spamming circle. These guards are on a cycle, and if you're fast, you will encounter a flashlight. On good pace, but without a good boost from the table, it's better to wait for the guard's light to pass before continuing. Although you can get the first guard to shoot you in the desired direction, taking a second shot after the keypad animation would end up being slower than waiting. But if you got a good boost, just keep going, since you'd have to wait longer for the guard's light anyway. After Slide types the code, don't immediately run forward, because it takes a third of a second for the lasers to deactivate. Instead, just pause briefly before running in, or move to the left a little. The laser wall stuns Slide but doesn't deal any damage. Square boost over these lasers, or you can optionally jump if you're at 25% health or less, since you'd be at risk of dying. Hit the breakables with normal cane swings and then press circle on the lever. Slide can pick up some coins in the cutscene. The next section is a 2.5 minute autoscroller where we need to protect Bentley from guards as he hacks these terminals. The number of guards alive at each time is capped at 4, and replacement guards will spawn from the door and then cross into the main area whenever there are fewer than 4 alive. Bentley starts at the left computer, then goes to the right. After returning to the left, he repeats that until he's at the right one for the 3rd time. Like the autoscrollers in episode 1, we use this opportunity to farm coins. The guards can drop coins upon death, and there's also the small chairs and the throne on the right side. However, at some point, coins will stop dropping completely from objects and guards, and it's not known what causes this to happen, so it's essentially random when coins will stop. This means you can collect anywhere from 15 to over 100 coins in this section, but either end of the spectrum is rather rare. Around 55 coins will drop on average. Because of this variability, it's especially important to try to pick up all the coins that drop, because there's never a guarantee of more, but sometimes this is hard. When punching, Murray auto-targets guards, so you often have to account for this when farming objects. Position Murray in a way where the hitbox of the punch will connect with the object on its way to the guard, or you can thunderflop. Until attempting to end the autoscroller, never use the uppercut attack as this seems to end coin drops sooner. Just use 2 punches to kill each guard. Slide can also collect coins while fighting. If Bentley dies, we fail the job. Since he has a different health bar than normal, here are his stages of health. The strat we do at the end will be easier if Bentley has more health, so consistently protecting him is very important. Bentley taking damage can also lose time if the damage causes him to be displaced from his position in front of the computer. Never rely on Slide to protect Bentley, as his AI is very, very bad, so he usually does more harm than good. Bentley can't collect coins or health drops. After coins stop dropping, if you're behind on coins, note that there are some breakables across the bridge that always drop coins. Breaking these also seems to allow a few additional coins to drop from the guards. But crossing the bridge will almost certainly result in Bentley getting hurt, so this backup should be used sparingly, and only if you're comfortable doing the ending with Bentley at lower health. At the end of this job, you should have a coin total between 216 and 246 if you're on the super early smoke bomb route, and between 275 and 300 if you're on the late smoke bomb route. Given that the coins in this job vary widely, this job has a pretty big impact on your coin pace, so be aware if you fall behind on coins and should pay additional attention to them. At this point in the run, the ramifications of being behind on coins will not come into play directly until episode 5, which is why it's important that you pay attention to the actual numbers and not just think about the next gadget. Once Bentley is at the right terminal for the 3rd time and has been hacking for about 20 seconds, he will say a voice line, which in English is,
This is tense! I can taste it!
After this voice line, the section will end as soon as all of the guards are dead, so we want to set it up so that we can kill them as quickly as possible when Bentley says his line. When Bentley arrives at the final computer, try to space the guards out from him to start by punching them away. Then, separate yourself from Bentley and wait for his voice line. This is in an attempt to allow guards to target Bentley and group in front of him, so that it's easier to end the autoscroller quickly. The guards will damage Bentley, but he has iframes just like when he's playable. If Bentley took damage earlier, you'd want to adjust and kill more guards before separating from him. If he's somehow at very low health, you might not be able to separate at all. Standing in the center of the room on the platform will force Slide to follow you, which prevents him from hitting the guards. Slide can push you, so avoid touching him. Alternatively, running across the room will provide more separation from the guards, but it won't automatically pull Slide to you, so you can try either one. For a safe and consistent ending, kill all the guards after you hear the voice line. With the guards grouped in front of Bentley, you can punch all or most of them off the ledge, and then kill the remaining guards, if any. The section can be completed slightly sooner by killing them just before the voice line, but late enough where respawn guards won't be able to make it back to the playable area in time before the section completes. If a guard is outside of a certain zone, it will count the same as if they're dead, but relying on this completely isn't recommended. In niche scenarios, it can be useful to juggle a guard with triangle. This delays their death and therefore also their respawn, and also keeps them from hurting Bentley. If the ending doesn't work out quite as planned for whatever reason, kill all the guards as quickly as possible. It's generally fastest to use a triangle square combo as Murray to kill guards, unless you want to move in a direction you can punch them in which case you can multitask by punching. Be very careful to not leave a guard in front of Bentley if he's at dangerous health. Never rely on Sly to protect Bentley. It's impossible to overstate how worthless Sly is in this job. Completing this section completes the job. After the autosave, reset the game.
After Boardroom Brawl, we're hovering Sly and we need Bentley for the operation, so Halligan select left. The route is mostly the same as RC Bombing Run, including the GSM. Either on the big bridge or immediately after, jump and drop a bomb. Hit it so it pushes you forward, so we're at half health for a cutscene skip. When entering this job trigger, there is about a half second before the cutscene starts while the game loads the job. If we death abuse with a bomb during this time, after entering the job but before the cutscene starts, we can skip the cutscene. Optimally, this is done with a regular bomb, which is dropped after a double jump into the trigger and then hit after landing on the ground. If you swing too early, you'll get a rolling bomb rather than making the bomb explode. To skip the cutscene, you have to hit the bomb in a manner which will cause Bentley to go airborne until after the cutscene starts. If the trigger is activated, Bentley is dead, and he is still in the air when the cutscene starts, the death will trigger a reload. Causing Bentley to go into the air can be done consistently by hitting the bomb from up close. Hitting the bomb from farther away will amplify your chances of moving more horizontally and quickly going to the ground. If you end up on the ground before the Banakicom appears, you won't skip the cutscene and the reload will occur after it, increasing the time loss. You want to release the bomb prior to Bentley entering the top of the trigger in order to give yourself sufficient time. In a bomb dropping animation, the trigger will immediately activate if Bentley is touching it, whereas in a normal falling animation, Bentley won't activate the trigger until he touches the ground. Alternatively, you can throw a trigger bomb into the trigger, which is a popular means for making this skip easier in exchange for a minimal time loss. You can use the bouncy pad on the right as a cue for when to toss it. Double jump into the trigger and swing at the trigger bomb upon landing. This method removes the risk of a rolling bomb, as well as the risk of triggering the job early. With Trigger Bomb, you can also just run into the trigger to hit the bomb, or you could single jump, but a double jump is the most comfortable. When running, you would activate the trigger much earlier, since you're on the ground, so the positioning of the bomb is more important to make sure you can hit it before the cutscene starts. Since we have a few viable options here that are close together in speed, choose whichever one is the most comfortable and consistent for you. If you are still alerted after getting off the bridge, be very careful of any nearby guards, as they can attract Bentley's attack auto-targeting, which can lead to missing the bomb. We'd recommend sleep darting a guard if he's nearby before going to the trigger. After the reload, hold forward and slightly right. Drop off the ledge, then double jump and drop a bomb on the corner support beam of the lower level. Then wrap around the platform with single jumps to drop a single bomb for each outside beam, then finally drop one on the center one. After the first bomb detonates, the bridge will start to crumble, which randomly drops rocks across the platform. These are really annoying, just do your best to avoid them. If you immediately go to the upper level after dropping the final bomb, you'll get to the upper level too soon for the next section to trigger. With proper movement, you can bounce off the bouncy pad around when the 8th bomb explodes. When going up, hold toward the walkway and drop 2 bombs into the cutscene. A double jump makes this more comfortable. Bombs can detonate on the upper beams during the cutscene, which will save time after, but they only work if they detonate after the foundation of the beam has been knocked off. If a bomb is directly on the foundation, it'll disappear with it. It is possible for 2 bombs to connect to the beam, which finishes it off early, but this is relatively uncommon. The bombs cannot damage Bentley in the cutscene, but they can push him off the side, which will deal damage. After the animation, head forward and drop a bomb or 2 on the beam beside Bentley if it's still alive. Move around with this route. On the upper section, the beams connected to Earth at either end only require a single bomb, but the 4 in the center require 2 each. It doesn't matter if bombs overlap with each other, but make sure each bomb overlaps with the pillar it's targeting. This section is very awkward as the platforms are narrow and uncomfortable to run on, and it's very easy to bonk anytime you jump. The rocks are also very annoying. The awkwardness and the plethora of possible damage sources can make this section scary very quickly, so be careful. For the bomb on the final pillar, hit it to immediately detonate it so that the section finishes sooner. If you are at half health or lower, you can still do this, but only after you have 7 out of 8 on the bottom right. The cutscene will prevent Bentley from dying, but it can't if he's already dead. It's slightly faster to use a trigger bomb for beam 8, which is thrown forward immediately after dropping the 2 bombs beside beam 5. Line up roughly with the beam, quickly toss, and then jump to the next beam. Avoid standing too far right, as the beam beside Bentley can intercept the trigger bomb. After dropping a normal bomb on beam 7, detonate the trigger bomb and then hit the normal bomb. This strat only saves 1/10 of a second, so only use it if you can do it near perfectly and consistently. After bombing the bridge, we enter a long cutscene, and then the Carmelita dance autoscroller. This functions the same as the Neela dance, and there's no way to make it go faster. Afterward, there is another cutscene, and the game will load back into the hub. In the hub, we have another autoscroller where we have to protect Murray with the RC Chopper. Each guard spawn and location throughout this section is consistent, so it's very easy to just learn the spots and drop bombs well before they get close to Murray. Murray will die instantly if we drop a bomb on him. Go down at the start and bomb the one flashlight guard in the road. Then you can bomb the other guy waiting at the bridge. On the left of this bridge, 4 monkeys will spawn. Then 2 flashlight guards spawn just inside the tunnel. Even bombing the roof will work for them. Then go up to kill 2 small guards that come from beneath the palace. To the left, 2 monkey guards come down the stairs. Then 3 monkey guards next jump onto this bridge, so just bomb the bridge repeatedly. Get the flashlight guard on the wall, and then down right to 2 goats. The final guards are 2 flashlight guards that spawn in the tunnel just like they did earlier. Once you've dealt with everyone, just hover around and wait for Murray to reach the van. When he does, a cutscene begins, which is the end of this episode, so split for the operation. After the job complete screen, depending on your version and hardware, reset the game to skip the animated outro cutscene. Remember that resetting after operations has a slightly different timing than normal job completes, so begin holding down the PS button after you hear the bass notes, just like we did after the episode 1 operation. If you aren't resetting, just watch the cutscene. After the reset or watching the cutscene, we will be put in the episode menu where we can continue to episode 3, which we'll do in the next part of this series. Thanks so much for watching. In the description is a link to the Sly Speedrunning Discord, which we encourage you to join for additional resources and to help. Be sure to like and subscribe and check out Gandy's links in the description, and we'll see you all next time.